Eli Manning says that he's no longer interested in buying a piece of the New York Giants franchise. Says it's too expensive for him. The Buccaneers tackle Tristan Wirfs will miss the start of the NFL season after undergoing knee surgery. And Rams wide receiver Davante Adams said that LeBron James would have been one of the best wide receivers in NFL history. CFL updates and more on this edition of Total Football Talk. Oh, it's that time again. Time for episode 92 of Total Football Talk. And yes, we have someone who is a special guest, but he is not so much a special guest to this program. Give it up for the man, myth, the legend. Why did it go? It clicked. I clicked the right one, but it played something different. This update, I'm telling you, I'm going to go ahead and click it again and see if we get the right outcome. There we go. Mr. McCarthy is back in the house. Welcome back there, sir.
If I had hair, it'd be swirling around like crazy, like those metal concerts.
Well, I do, and I got it tied back today because it's a little hot out here on the East Coast. You know, you gotta keep it from all frizzing up. But with that being said, we are back for episode 92 of Total Football Talk, CFL news and more. StreamYard, please get it together so when we click a button, it plays the right thing out here in these streams. With that being said, much news within the NFL. Well, at least on the discussion side of it that we have for the Gridiron Scoop. And we have, of course, the games to recap here in the opening drive. Let's go ahead and take it to that and see what we have for week 5 in the CFL.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On 2. Ready? Great.
And here with the opening drive for week 5, we got to start this out with something that you and I both agree would be that's this Friday night game we had this past week, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, between the Hamilton Tiger Cats, who were on the road against the Toronto Argonauts. And in this game, Bo Levi Mitchell, 19-24 with 332 passing yards, five time. Yes. 5 touchdowns, man. Absolutely wild for him to throw that. And, you know, for someone who's a veteran in this league and in the game of football together, Bo Levi Mitchell came up strong, which is why we have him on our thumbnail for today's episode, throwing the 5 touchdowns to lead the Tiger Cats past the Argonauts 51-38. Greg Bell added 11 carries on the ground for 48 rushing yards and a touchdown, as well as 3 receptions for 19 yards in the air, combining for over 60 combined yards, nearly 70. Kenny Lawler, 6 receptions for 207 receiving yards, absolutely video game numbers. 3 huge catches for touchdowns. Half of his catches on the day, touchdowns. Kenny Lawler, absolutely huge. Keandre Smith, 3 receptions, 28 yards, and an added touchdown for 4 of the 5 touchdowns thrown by Bo Levi Mitchell. The Tiger Cats defense, 1 sack and 1 interception by Deshaun Amos. Total penalties for this team, though, which were absolutely huge, only 4 for 30 yards. That's not bad in comparison to how they've played throughout this year. They're getting better when it comes to not committing penalties. They have actually improved over the last 4 games, committing less and less penalties. Good on the Tiger Cats for only 4 penalties for 30 yards in this game. And Mark Lehio Maehio, 1 of 1 on field goals for the day, and added 9 total points to that total of 51 for the team. Absolutely helped them out for the day. Now, Nick Arbuckle on the other side, 27 of 38 for 339 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 2 carries for 10 yards, but that interception definitely did not help their cause for the Argos. Kevin Brown, not the pitcher in the major leagues who definitely won the World Series or so, did not have his best output in this game. 8 carries for 22 yards, but did have 1 touchdown. But only 8 carries for 22 yards is not all that great when you're a leading running back in this game. Kalen LeBourne, 1 carry and 1 yard for a touchdown. Didn't do much with that carry, but he did get a touchdown out of it. Kevin Mittal, 8 receptions, 104 yards and a touchdown, along with DeMonte Coxey, 5 receptions for 76 yards and a touchdown. Both of them the highlights of this offense on this day. The Argos defense only mustered up 2 sacks, and for this team that we came into the season thinking they were going to be pretty decent, to have 10 penalties for 71 yards against the Hamilton Tiger Cats team that has struggled. Between that, your bright spots were the 2 receivers in Liram, who was 2 of 2 for field goals and 8 total points. When you look at the total penalties for this team, Ryan, what are your thoughts looking back on this game?
Yick.
Was it
Toronto? Ick. Toronto, it's the ick. For Hamilton, solid job.
Hamilton, solid job. Argos.
Yep. And undisciplined, unhealthy, not great. That's what helps. That's what it contributes to losses. It's too many penalties.
I mean, besides the penalties, what are your overall thoughts? Looking back in this contest.
Okay, I thought you were just asking about the penalties, but yeah, let's talk about the game
My
itself.
apologies.
Okay. I'm tired. You're tired. We're all tired. Too much sun.
Yes.
Too much sun or too little sun for some of us. All right. Look, the key moment of this game came at 9:13 of the first quarter. Toronto was up 7-0 at that point. They forced a 2-and-out. Their defense forced a 2-and-out, and you think, all right, if Toronto gets another touchdown, this game's going to go into overdrive very, very quickly. But then Mr. Amos with the interception, which led to and immediately after that interception, Kenny the King Lawler gets his first touchdown of the game. Of his, how many touchdowns did he have? Not 1, not 2, but 3. A hat trick of touchdowns for the day for Kenny the King Lawler. But we talk about Bo Levi Mitchell, and we talk about how Calgary gave him good healthy farewell a couple years ago. They handed the reins to Jake Meyer. We all know what happened there, and we thought to ourselves, okay, Bo Levi Mitchell, he's in the twilight of his career. Maybe he can do something in Hamilton. Maybe he can, maybe his time is up and he's getting too old and he's ready to put on the headset, take off the shoulder pads and the helmet and put on the headset. The demise of Bo Levi Mitchell has been greatly exaggerated, and it showed in the latter half of last season, and it's starting to show in the first part of this season, and we saw it in this game. I mean, he only had 5 incompletions the entire game, 19 to 24, 332 yards, and not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, 5,
and no turnovers,
passing touchdowns, 0 turnovers. Man, and if you love defense, you would have hated this game. You would have absolutely hated this game because both quarterbacks, I mean, with the one exception being the turnover by Nick Arbuckle again, but that was the turning point of the game. That was the turning point when Amos when Amos caught that interception. It looked like it was going to be a pass going to I forgot who he was trying to throw to. I think it would have been. I think it might have been Coxie going for about the watch. I should have watched the highlights before I came on here, but he's trying for a deep. Arbuckle's trying for a deep ball. It doesn't quite land. It was a little bit underthrown. Amos picks it off, returns it for 32 yards. And the first play, again, Bo Levi tosses a beautiful pass and an even better catch by Kenny Lawler for the touchdown. And they go up and they tie the score. Then they kick a field goal. Then the touchdown forces a 2-and-out. They forced consecutive 2-and-outs. So I can't completely say that there was no defense in this game. All the defense highlights came from Hamilton early in this game because they forced 2-and-outs, which led to 17 unanswered points in the first quarter. And that was a big difference in this game. We didn't see much scoring in the second quarter, but the second half was just score fest. Score fest. That's when both defenses in a way broke down a little bit, but it was more evident on Toronto's side of the ball. And remember, Toronto had a really great game last week, the week before on Sunday night in Ottawa. And when they had a blocked field goal and a fumble return for a touchdown, they forced 3 turnovers out of the Ottawa Redblacks. But it seems like the defense, I don't say they took the day off, but it's not so much the Toronto Argonauts defense had the day off. It was that Bo Levi Mitchell was putting on a masterclass in throwing the football. And it was evident all game long. And look at the team stats. Both teams. Hamilton was 13 of 20 on second down. That's 67%. That's incredible on third down conversion. Incredible conversion rate at 100 yards rushing, 415 total yards of net offense, no turnovers. Like you said, no turnovers. They had one fumble, but it wasn't taken away. So, but there were 3 for 3 in the red zone. And Bo Levi Mitchell, we talked about him last year, possibly becoming an most outstanding player candidate in the league, even with the losing record. He lost that to Brady Oliveira, but there was talk that Bo Levi Mitchell was the MVP, was the most outstanding player last year in the CFL. He's starting to put those credentials together very early in the season, and this game was proof that it showed.
Absolutely was. I mean, we're going to talk more about Bo Levi in this episode, but he absolutely lit it up in this game. And for that being said, it was actually, a compliment. I tagged him in a story on Instagram this morning when I put our promo out, to try to, as I do every week, I get just as much enjoyment putting the promos out as I do putting the show out. One, I've created these things in the past, and it's not much work just to kind of tweak it a little bit, throw it on out there. It takes like literally no time, but it hypes me up just as much as I want to hype the show up. And it was cool for him to actually see it. Now, I'm not sure if he shared it or not. I haven't spent that much time on social media today because I had to cut the grass and stuff before we got on here.
Hey, but he might be watching right now. They're not playing until tomorrow night.
This is true. I mean,
so
he deserves.
Bo Levi, what's up, buddy?
You got to celebrate yourself, brother. I mean, you threw 5 mother-fathered touchdowns in this game, dude. You absolutely crushed it. And just like Brian said, there's moments where people have thought this dude's about to pick up a clipboard and start sharing his knowledge with the next generation. No, he's saying F that. Coming out here, and I'm going to tear it up with 5 touchdowns and no interceptions. 332 yards, absolutely mollywhopping Nick Arbuckle on the other side in comparison to how he played. And like I said, we're going to talk more about him later on. We are. You know it, and I know it. We got to hype this man up because he has got to turn this Tiger Kitties team around.
We're pumping those tires, baby.
Got to, man. We're tired of seeing them get smacked around out there. We want to see the Tiger Kitties go out there, pounce, and crush their opponent.
You're not Cub Simba anymore, guys. You're full grown adult ass lion Simba.
when he marked his head and lifted him up.
Simba. Bo Levi.
Hey, he could on the side. We don't know. It's not publicized as much, but he could be creating the next generation of Mitchell to go out there and tear up professional football. And who knows what level that kid could, because sometimes the kid is better than the genetic father. We saw that with the Peyton and Eli in comparison to Archie.
Mm-hmm.
So
sure,
not trying to disrespect the Manning family and vice versa the Mitchells, but at the same time, you got to look at it for pro football families. Good happen. True. You never know. Could be predicting the future, but I am not a psychic. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and take this into the next game. And here with the next game that we have on Saturday, we actually had a pretty good weekend in CFL football, Ryan, in comparison to the previous week, because the previous weekend absolutely sucked because teams were smacking down the other ones, and the ones who were losing were not really competitive. And in this game that we got to talk about from Saturday, the 7:00 game, well, I mean, it was the only game on Saturday, but still, BC Lions get a win on the road. 2 consecutive teams get wins on the road for week 5. And the Alouettes, who, Ryan, I know you know pretty well, you have to sit here and tell us why they absolutely took the small, not big, but close. Because Nathan Rourke absolutely showed up with 22 of 36, 352 passing yards on the day. He did have a touchdown and an interception, but added 8 carries for 43 rushing yards and a touchdown. James Butler, 12 carries for 41 yards and also added a reception for 19 yards. Justin McInnes, 6 receptions for 109 yards. Stanley Berryhill III, who I would say my vote goes to for insurance salesman on the side with that name, Berryhill III, 4 receptions, 85 yards, and a touchdown. Lions defense had 2 sacks, but the team total had 11 penalties for 146 yards. That is not a typo. That is legitimate. 10 plus 1, 11 penalties for 146 yards and still won the game. That's pretty bad when you look at it in comparison to the Alouettes, because Sean White did add 3 field goals and was complete out of 3 attempts for 9 total points. But your vote for the insurance salesman, the law offices, also, because he could have his own side business as well for insurance, but he could be a lawyer. McLeod Bethel Thompson, 15 of 23 for 192 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. And with that, he couldn't get the win, even though he didn't have any turnovers. He did have 2 carries for 9 yards on the day as well. Sean Thomas Erlington, 11 carries for 76 yards. Did not have a touchdown on the ground, but he did have one in the air as he had 2 receptions for 22 yards and a receiving touchdown. One half of the Twins, the Philpotts, Tyson, had 3 receptions, 57 yards, and a touchdown. And our guy, who I haven't been able to hype up this year, but we did last year, and we made a short that he actually reacted to on Instagram. Cole Spiker, 3 receptions for 54 receiving yards, did not have a touchdown, but did help contribute to why the Alouettes were close in this game. The Alouettes defense had 2 sacks and an interception by Kabion Into, and the penalties for them, not nearly as bad for the Lions as it was for the Alouettes. They had 5 for 50 yards, but in the red zone, they had 3 attempts and only converted on 1 of them, having a 33.3% red zone percentage in this game. Jose Maltos, who I believe affected this team with the missed field goal because he was 2 of 3 for field goals on the day for 8 points, is at the bottom of this list for a reason, because I feel like he contributed to this big old small but stinking. Looking back on this game, how did the Lions win this with the amount of penalty yards they racked up when they had twice the amount of penalties in comparison to the losing team?
Sometimes you gotta win ugly. And not just ugly, not just any kind of ugly, but there's another graphic you're going to have to pull up there. It's not quite the red and black shoes, but BC, the game was not pretty for them because, again, penalties, 11 penalties, 146 yards. But as we've said, we've said in conversation outside the show, we talked about how this offense literally runs through Nathan Rourke. And
Yes.
it certainly showed in this game. He was the X factor in this game. 352 yards and a touchdown. Also had 8 carries and 43 yards. So he shows all that mobility that unfortunately his backup Jeremiah Masoli did not have. So it was good for Rourke to get that rest, because with any calf injury, that risks you getting a torn Achilles. Seen it again and again and again, not just in football, but in basketball. We saw that 3 guys going down with a torn Achilles tendon in the playoffs this year. So you want to rest that calf, and you want to make sure it's healthy enough to play. And he was healthy enough to play, and Davis Alexander was not for the Montreal Alouettes. And we're kind of seeing on the other side of the ball, McLeod Bethel-Thompson, serviceable quarterback, but he just didn't have enough yardage. And I don't think eight incompletions, 15 and 23 for 192 yards and 2 touchdowns. Had 2 touchdowns, but Montreal can't seem to get their air attack going without Davis Alexander out there. And I know they had pretty balanced offensive attack. They had 120 yards rushing. That's nothing to sneeze at, but you cannot go 1 for 3 in the red zone. You cannot do that in the CFL, because you are going to get that L, as Drew played that graphic, the L graphic. Yeah. It's not gonna do that. You're not gonna do too well in the CFL or any football league if you're going 1 for 3 in the end zone, in the red zone. The defense played solid, 2 sacks and an interception, which actually saved a touchdown. Penalties, they were disciplined, but 1 for 3 in the red zone, it's not going to do it. And their air attack, I think their air attack, they've got the week off this week. They got a bye week this week. Hopefully Davis Alexander is healthy enough to play in the next game, which I believe is a home game. I'll double check before we for our next segment. But you got to convert on those. You got to convert in the red zone. Field goals, unless your defense is top notch, is not going to win it for you. And you could talk about the end of the game, because it was back and forth. BC scored a field goal, left enough time on the clock for the Alouettes to drive the field and get a field goal. But we didn't talk about one of those big penalties at the end of the game, or towards the end of the game, when one of the Montreal Alouettes linemen on that field goal, which was converted, Maltos made the field goal, one of their linemen had a penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct, which cost them 15 yards on the kickoff. It had kickoff from their own 20-yard line. And that gave BC enough room to get down the field with enough time on the clock to get within field goal range. And Montreal's defense made, some could say it's a mistake, others can say it was a good idea. They were the last play before the field goal by Sean White to end the game. They were playing for the Hail Mary. And I think Rourke did a really good job recognizing it and found a guy in the middle of the field where he goes to the sticks, gets the first down, they get in the field, and they walk it off for the win. Now, I don't know if you saw this, Drew, but there was an altercation after the game.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Between a member of the Montreal Alouettes and a member of the BC Lions as they were going in the locker room, and there's a fight. I don't know what the discipline. I don't know what the discipline was from that, but I'll have to look it up. But it was a heated matchup in Montreal. It's a humid night, and it's a tight game. Montreal's at home for the first time in a while, and they want to win for their fans. And unfortunately, their offense didn't do enough to put more points on the board than BC, and BC walks off with a win. And there's a little altercation that there's a little bit of the fifth quarter in there, so to speak. But BC gets the win. They got one more game before they go back home. But Montreal's got an extra week to sit and think about that loss. And like a lot of these teams in this league, we talked about it with BC and Nathan Rourke. We talked about a little bit with Toronto and Chad Kelly. That offense goes through Chad Kelly in Toronto. this offense is going through Davis Alexander in Montreal. They're a lot more explosive with Davis Alexander at quarterback. They play a little bit more conservative, a little bit more dink and dunk with McLeod Bethel-Thompson, either because if he doesn't have the arm strength anymore, or that's just the game plan they come up with to foil BC. But I think Davis Alexander, he's the big X factor when it comes to going for the offense going through him. And I think when he comes back, when he comes back, hopefully he comes back next week, he'll be able to put more points on the board and get more points through the air. Because 20 points and 1 for 3 in the red zone, it ain't gonna do it.
So they do have they have already handed down a suspension. They suspended the defensive lineman for the BC Lions, Kamoko Ture, as he was the one that was caught landing the first punch in this fight. Even though he claims that it looks like on the other side, Ademi Berglund, Isaac Ademi, or I guess that's how you say it, Ademi Berglund, lunged towards him, and he claims that he threw the first punch. But regardless, he was the one who was actually suspended as a result of this fight. And because of that, they have begun the process of punishment for that, or that could be all who gets suspended in this. But it's just unfortunate that basically it looks like a misconception of words between two teammates upset, this guy on the other side, and they get to beefing, before they can even get to the locker room, and things brawl out. So with that being said, at least the CFL has begun or ended its process for punishment in this game. But the BC Lions, though, they were hot to start out 2024 and then kind of fizzled out towards the end, and now we're seeing what I believe is a continuance of that fizzling from the second half of 2024 to start 2025, because they're 2-3 right now through 5 weeks.
But they got the win this week, and that gets them off the schneid. And they got Edmonton this week. So, and a much improved Edmonton team, as we'll talk about in the next segment.
And then give this team a break. Because they need it. Give this team a break because they need it after that. But with that being said, we still have one more game to cover here within the opening drive. That was the Friday game. And now we have that we have to talk about, because the Sunday game was pretty close to the end between the Redblacks, the Elks, in this Week 5 game on Sunday at 7:00 p.m. Eastern Time. You have Trey Ford, who was 15 of 17, only having 2 incompletions on the day for 212 passing yards, along with 2 passing touchdowns and 2 carries on the ground for 14 rushing yards. Justin Rankin, absolutely huge in this game, 12 carries for 105 yards and a rushing touchdown, along with 4 receptions for 69 yards and a receiving touchdown. Yeah, he was absolutely huge for them. Stephen Dunbar, 6 receptions, 55 receiving yards as well. And Curly Gittins Jr. only had 24 receiving yards on 3 receptions, but did have one of those 2 touchdowns that he hauled in from Trey Ford. The Elks' total penalties, though, 6 for 80 yards. They had 6 total penalties that affected them in this game. Vincent Blanchard was big for special teams, as he was 3 of 3 for field goals, contributing 13 points. Drew Brown on the other side, though, continues to throw huge amounts of yards in these games. 316 passing yards, Stone Cold's number, 316, as he was 31 of 43 for completions of attempts. 2 passing touchdowns. He did muster up 1 carry, but only for 1 yard. This team struggled as they were behind 6 points when this game ended. Daniel Adebabwe, 9 carries, 39 rushing yards, along with 3 receptions for 46 receiving yards on the day. Geno Lewis had 8 receptions for 75 receiving yards and a receiving touchdown. Khalil Pimpleton, 6 receptions, 68 yards. And the Redblacks' total penalties mustered 9 for 118 yards, which in my opinion really affected the outcome of this game. Lewis Ward, though, their field goal kicker, was 4 of 4 on the day. total field goals for 15 combined points. Ryan, when you look at this game right here, was it more so the result of the penalties that affected the outcome, or were the Elks just clicking on all cylinders, scoring, but their defense struggled here a little bit?
I'm going to say it was a little bit of both. And two of those touchdowns for each team came off the special points or special teams, excuse me. Javon Leak had a long touchdown punt return where he almost got caught at the end. He was trotting. He slowed down as he was going to the end zone. Almost got caught by a Redblacks player, but wound up getting the end zone. They went up, and the Elks went up 17-0 at that point. And we had Khalil Pimpleton filling in for Davante Edmonds. Prayers up for Davante Edmonds. He had looked like a really severe leg injury off of his lone punt return. He had to be carted off, which is unfortunate. So hopefully it's not all bad news. He can make a quick recovery. He had a long punt return for a touchdown. So it was tit for tat in terms of special teams touchdowns. But Edmonton basically, they did not trail in this game. I don't think they trailed in this game at all, if I remember correctly. They did not trail in this game at all. They went up 15. They were up 15-3 at the end of the first quarter. So they scored their first touchdown, and they had the extra point. They get the 2-point conversion. Excuse me. And they scored another touchdown after that. So you had this feeling that this Elks team was going to be rolling pretty well. It's going to be rolling pretty well. But Ottawa showed heart. And they rallied back. They scored 14 of their own. And at halftime, it's 22-17. You're thinking to yourself, "Oh man, this game's going to be one of those games where it could go to the final whistle, and we could have ourselves a shootout." And a shootout it was. We had 10 points by Edmonton in the third quarter. And then Ottawa had scored 10 of their own, but you got to look at this. You got to look at the running attack for the the rushing attack for the Edmonton Elkamos. 140 yards on the ground. That is it. You want to win. You want to win in football, period. And 105 of those yards were by Justin Rankin alone. I talked about him in last week's show, on last Friday's show, about him starting his career in the IFL in the Indoor Football League. He played with Bismarck, San Diego, and went up to the Bay Area, played with the Panthers, won a title with them. Shout out Coach Rob Keefe. He used to coach the Albany Empire back in the day. He's coaching the Bay Area Panthers now. But he got a shot playing the IFL. Now he's playing the CFL with the Edmonton Elks. He's their RB1 right now. Had that long touchdown run in the fourth quarter, which I wouldn't say it was the dagger, but you could tell that Edmonton was starting to. You had a feeling they're going to win that game, and if you're an offensive lineman, you just want to run down that clock to where it hits all zeros, and you're on the winning side of that team of the game. And I remember watching the replay. I caught the game on CFL Plus. And they showed the replay of that run by Justin Rankin, and you just see three linemen on one side of the ball just open up this hole, and Rankin just goes right through it, and he's gone, baby, gone. Absolutely. As a former offensive lineman myself, chef's kiss. That was beautiful. That's a beautiful thing to see. But Trey Ford had a very good game. Only had 2 incompletions. I mean, Edmonton themselves had only 2 incompletions. Cody Fajardo was 4 for 4 when he was brought into the game, and I'll talk about that in my snowflake of the week. It's not Cody Fajardo, but I'll mention somebody else from the Edmonton Elks. But Trey Ford, only 2 incompletions. They were 19 of 21 on the day for 241 complete yards, and Trey Ford 2 touchdowns. So he had a relatively mistake-free game. You want to see that from Trey Ford, who is the quarterback of the future for this Elks team. And you start to see positive signs. You can start to see the signs that Edmonton was trying to put something together with this new head coach, Mark Killam. and they played their hearts out for the first 3 wins, the first 3 games of the season for them. And they had a week off to kind of think about things. They almost stole their game against Winnipeg, which is hard to do. But you could kind of see them starting to put things together. And they were up by, let's see, they were up. Did they score the conversion? No, they didn't score the conversion, did they? I'm checking. No, okay. So they were up 39-26, and they're just playing prevent defense to end the game. And Ottawa wanted to score a touchdown. Edmonton gets the onside kick. But you can kind of tell things are starting to come together in Edmonton. And, a lot of people are writing off this Elks team, but they got another home game on Sunday against BC, who's had to travel to the East Coast, back to the West Coast, and then come to Edmonton. It's a lot of miles to travel. But, hey, Edmonton could be a team on the rise, could be a surprise team when we come to the end of the road here towards playoff time. We talked about them being kind of a surprise team last year too, when they swept Calgary in the Battle of Alberta. So, I'm hoping that Edmonton really does start to put things together, because this is a fun team to watch. I enjoyed this game on Sunday.
It absolutely was a fun game to watch. I remember hitting you up and talking about, this game could be potentially the game of the week. And, we talked about before the show, still a toss of the coin literally beforehand. But
yeah,
this one for the Elks and what they did and their hard work to beat the Redblacks deserves this title right here. The game of the week. Game of the week.
Game of the week.
As we saw the Elks actually come through and score 39 points against a team that, they've struggled a little bit in the Redblacks, but and yes, they're 1-4, but previous to this year, into this start, Redblacks not at the level as far as at the bottom of the league as far as production, in my opinion, in comparison to the Elks, like they are right now. And this, going into it last week, I was saying it was going to be the toilet bowl. I was claiming it was going to be the toilet bowl, talking about it, and you joking. I thought you were joking, said that we could be talking about this as the game of the week next week. And I was wrong. You were right. So I give you your flowers right here and now for this, as we talk about this in the opening drive.
Are you giving me this rose, Drew? Mr. McCarthy, would you take this rose?
That was great. But we got a couple comments out here in the live chat. Sick Diggy is in the house saying, "What's good, everybody?" and happy July to one and all. It is muggy over here in the States. I don't know how it is over there in Norway, but temperature is not feeling all that great at this point of the summer.
No, it is currently 89 degrees in my part of the world right now. It's gross.
It's 89 here as well as I look on mine, but the humidity is up to where it feels like 99. So it's like 10 degrees hotter in that point. But hopefully things are doing well for you over there in Norway. And he says, "What's up, fellas?" All the way from Ike over there, New York Giants fans. A shout out to Ike over there as well. And then we've got both of them talking back and forth. And Six says that we got to pause that we have to pause that in that discussion, I guess, when it comes to the rose. And for that, I'll give you that. We got to pause that. No more Rose talk up in here, Mr. McCarthy, as Sick wanted us to pause that unit right there and hold it and stand still. But with that being said, it is paused. We're having fun out here in these streams. 40 minutes in, we do have to take our first commercial break before we get to the Snowflake of the Week, the Gridiron Scoop, and the Grand Champ here on the other side. We'll see you after this short commercial break.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? at 42, 989 on 2. Ready? Ready.
We're just getting started. Total Football Talk will return right after this. Join Ryan McCarthy.
I became a Jets fan because Kermit the Frog was my favorite Muppet because he was green, and the Jets wore green. That's how I became a Jets fan.
And Dustin Henry.
ESPN is cashing all in on let's pay a few personalities and we'll just kind of fill in the gaps.
As they walk you through all of the world of sports from their perspective.
The Albany Empire, it's a literal circus.
No credentials required. Where, Ryan, say the tag.
Where you don't need a press pass to talk sports.
Live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central on YouTube and where you can find podcasts.
Drew, I'm hearing a bunch of stuff in your mind. I know you know this team very well. Are you in and out, my friend?
This team, as a fan for the past, 18 months, it has been terrible.
As an analyst.
As an analyst, going through the experience as an analyst and also as a closet fan of the Washington football team, formerly known as the Redskins. It is a travesty. I am out.
Get the f*** out of here!
I believe that they will not make the playoffs this year. Come on, they are 2-6. I don't care how much of a fan I am. I don't care how much of a past fan I am to have a half sleeve dedicated to them. It doesn't matter. They S-U-C-K.
Hey, what's good, everybody? This your boy Corey, host of The Grind, where we talk about all things WWE. You can catch The Grind every single Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern. 4 p.m. Eastern, right here on Sertoba Media. If you're not following Sertoba Media, then what are you doing? Like, share, subscribe. There are many different things that we have available on Sertoba Media for your viewing pleasure. And what else you got to do on a Saturday afternoon? Come spend some time with me. Come spend some time with my colleagues on this platform. Help us be able to bring everything that you all want to see. Matter of fact, you know what? If you ain't did it yet, I got something for you. Stay true to what you do. Stay true to why you do. And always stay true to you.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Dogs, it's time for the grand champ of the week. And to start his pick out, we take it to Mr. McCarthy.
My grand champ of the week comes from, and we just talked about him in our last segment, our game of the week. That's Tristan Rankin of the Edmonton Elks, who had himself a day on Sunday. 12 rushes, 105 yards, 1 rushing touchdown, including that 75-yard romp that was set up beautifully by his offensive line. He also contributed 4 receptions, 69 yards, nice, and 1 receiving touchdown, which was actually the starting touchdown. He was the first touchdown of the game. So Justin Rankin, versatile running back, Edmonton Elks. He's my grand champ of the week, and deservedly so. There were so many people. There were so many players that could have had this award, but it's just based on the game that he had and the fun that I had watching this game on Sunday. I'm giving my grand champ to Justin Rankin himself. Nice 174 yards total from scrimmage. Beautiful game, 2 touchdowns, and he's my grand champ of the week.
That is a solid pick for grand champ of the week. As we have to add a little bit of MJ in there with the key. Yes, but with that, with the grand champ of the week, absolutely grand pick with that with Justin Rankin, and I hope that that I can match that with this one right here that I have for you guys when it comes to my pick for the Grand Champ of the Week. And I'd go with a CFL legend in my choice for Grand Champ of the Week. And I'm going with Bo Levi Mitchell.
Hey.
19 of 24, 332 passing yards, 5 passing touchdowns. Also saw the story that I put up on Instagram earlier. He is a legend, and notice what we were doing out here in these streams. So shout out to him for checking that out, even if it was only for a second. Shout out to Bo Levi Mitchell, who does not have a game today, but he is a 2-time Grey Cup champion for a reason, even though it was with his previous team. And he's got a strong task at hand when it comes to leading these Tiger Kitties to a Grey Cup. But hey, with numbers like this, if he can go back to this type of production each and every week, this team might surprise you with the little playoff run here in the future. He is 35, okay? He is up there. The time is not on his side. But if he can get some cucumber ice cream like Thomas Edward Patrick Brady II, he could stick around for a few more years and help this team rebuild itself into where they could be a contender like his previous Calgary Stampeders team was. 5 passing touchdowns, 35, looked like 25 in this past week's game, and he absolutely lit it up. Shout out to Bo Levi, my pick for Grand Champ of the Week.
We forgot to do last week on last week's program. We forgot to congratulate Bo Levi Mitchell on surpassing 40,000 career passing yards. He did that in the game against Montreal last week. So we forgot to congratulate him on completing that feat. So congratulations to you, Bo Levi.
Then he followed it up with this, doing this in this game. This is an actual shot from that game where he was lighting it up. One of those 5 touchdown passes were from this drop back and toss. Look at the laser focus in his eyes. He is not effing around out here on these fields.
Always looking downfield. That's what the great quarterbacks do when they scramble, when they're in the pocket. They always look downfield. Eyes downfield at all times.
I mean, it's been 7 years since he won a Grey Cup, but if he kept up this production for the next 3 years, could you see him potentially leading this team to a turnaround to where we could consider them as a favorite potentially to make it to a Grey Cup at least?
Yeah, I certainly can. This team hasn't won a Grey Cup since 1999. It's the longest drought in the CFL right now. So, they've had a couple chances to do it in the last 5 years or so, or 5-6 years, and unfortunately they couldn't get past Winnipeg. So, with Bo Levi in the back as your quarterback, explosive offense, if the defense can fix a couple things, absolutely, I can certainly see them winning a Grey Cup. They could possibly win it this year. The East is wide open right now.
And they're starting off hot these past couple weeks. It was a little bumpy the first couple, but they're starting to turn it around. And even those losses we were talking about, how close they were. So, hey, we still have a long season to go.
Yep.
And, we just hope for his health. At this age, it's tough. And the fact that he was 9 the last time they won a Grey Cup, he's got a tall order at hand. But if there's anybody that can do it for this franchise, for these 9 teams out here, out of these 9 teams, it's Bo Levi Mitchell that can help lead this team.
That's why they traded for him.
Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that, like you said earlier, he could have gone either way not too long ago with the clipboard in hand and helped the next generation or stick it out. And for him to stick it out, as that 2-time champ where he could have just hung it up and said, hey, I had great years with the Stampeders. He wanted to keep playing. Look what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So great for him. Great picks again for the Grand Champ of the Week. Justin Rankin was Ryan's pick. My pick, Bo Levi Mitchell. Shout out to both of them again for having a great weekend in Week 5's action for the CFL. With that being said, we're going to take this into the Gridiron Scoop, discuss a few more things, but this time for the NFL before we come back to the CFL. Let's start it on out with the New York Giants. Eli Manning says he's no longer interested in buying a piece of the NFL's Giants. It's too expensive for me, he says in quotes. Do you believe that this is about the money, or that he believes the franchise is too far away from a winning culture?
It could be a little bit of both, but I'm willing to believe it's the latter. It's the latter more than the former. I believe it. I think he believes that they're too far away from reestablishing the winning culture that they had when he was their quarterback. And look, we're talking about Brian Dable was almost out of a job at the end of last year. Same with Joe Shane. They've got a year to turn it around, and they did a pretty good job in the draft. They picked up Jackson Dart, traded back up into the first round to grab him. They picked up Abdul Carter from Penn State, one of the best pass rushers in college all of last year. Made a mistake in almost trying to get number 56. Pump the brakes on that, young man. You're not at that level. You're not at that level. But you got him on one side of the ball. You got Kayvon Thibodeau on the other side of the ball. That's a pretty formidable pass rush for the next half decade for the Giants. And they picked up Cam Scatterbo as I don't want to say he's a replacement for Saquon Barkley, but he's very good running back, and I'm hoping he has a long career, and the Giants don't make a mistake in not signing him to a contract and giving your quarterback the bag. That being said, I think the Giants are a little bit a ways away from reestablishing their winning culture. Now, let's see if they can do it this year. The latter half of their schedule, they got a really tough schedule. I don't think they have a bye week until week 14 this season, which is a rough way to go for a schedule. But then that schedule gets easier. Like three of the four games for the rest of the season. Like they got one against Washington, which is going to be tough. But I think the last three games of their season in 2025 are going to be all against opponents who are absolute garbage water last year. But I mean, I don't know how much money that the Giants. I'm not sure how much money the Maras were asking Eli to pay. I know they said openly they were willing to sell shares of the team for the first time ever. But if it's not about the money, it's about the culture. And if he believes the culture is the team is still a few years away from reestablishing the winning culture they had, then I have reason to believe that it was that and not so much the money. The guy's got money. I mean, between the millions of dollars the Giants paid him over the entirety of his career, and the money he's getting from ESPN. I don't know if he's getting paid by ESPN for their the Manning cast on Monday Night Football.
They are. Yeah, they got to be getting paid for that.
Then he's making bank. So, but I don't think it's about the money so much as the Giants are. They're tire fire right now, and if they pick things up, then I think he buys back in. But at what price? Are the Mars going to say, "Oh, you wanted to buy it this tier pricing this year"? Well, we went to the playoffs this year, so the price is going to go up. But we'll see. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how much money that Eli was willing to invest in the Giants, but I just have to think it was more about the culture than it was the price.
Well, I have to agree with you on this as well, because it's been a while, even towards the latter years of Eli being with the Giants. They didn't really have much of a winning culture. I mean, they were literally hanging on for dear life
because they couldn't protect him.
Yes, and Daniel Jones had
the same problem. Year. And they had the same problem last year too.
And Daniel Jones happened to have one decent year, which happened to be his contract year.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, and Snowman is here. TFT with the guys. Snowman checking in. Hey. Gotta get Snowman in here to talk a little CFL football here in the near future and discuss some football with us here. We are Fridays, every Friday, 5 p.m. Snowman, come on out. We'll have to talk about this behind the scenes. But with that being said, with the Giants and Eli Manning, again, like, it has to be about them being too far away from a winning culture, because what he's doing with ESPN Plus and helping Peyton out with Omaha Productions and, of course, the Manning cast, they've got a lot of different projects going on. They are making money outside of the game of football. They've got it. You know, they and if they don't have it, they have means and credit to get it because of who they are. So, and partnerships. So, with that being said, it'd be tough to lock yourself into into an organization, a franchise that isn't going to win, because the more you win, and we've seen it with teams like the Commanders and other teams that have had some the Lions, like over the past decade, when you look at where they were a decade ago, it was harder for them to fill seats in their stadium, both of them, because they weren't playing that well. And now they're both playing very well, and they have full houses. Ford Field and, you know, formerly FedEx Field over there in Landover, Maryland, like they're selling out stadiums because the teams are good. So if you have a good team, you'll sell tickets, and that revenue is spread around, especially to the ownership. So there has to be more than just the money for buying it. If you're not a good team and the winning culture isn't there, you're not going to make it back either.
Yeah. So I did look it up while you were talking, and the Giants were offering, well, their potential stake is 10%, up to 10% of the team. They said that he was valued. He was stated to, the cost was a primary reason, mentioning a 1% stake in a team valued at $10 billion would be a very large number. So take 1% of $10 billion. Let's do the math. So 0.01 divided by 10 billion.
Is this still like $100 million?
About $10 million, I think.
Okay, so I was a zero off. Okay,
I'm not. I mean, I could be wrong too.
That's some Virginia. That's some Virginia hardcore math. $100 million. But
yeah,
I'll blame that on Virginia.
I'm a product of the New York State school system, so.
Yes, and we both went there and went to schools before they made things easier for the next generation. Like they're like the curriculum nowadays. You go search on there what the curriculums are for kids, and you know, K through 12. Like it's ridiculous, like how much they've watered it down in comparison to where they wanted to shove everything into our heads. But I digress.
10% of $10 billion is $1 billion. So. I think it would be about $10 million, I think, or $100 million.
For some reason, I thought it was 100. Yeah, let us know, is it 10 million or 100 million as we do this show? But it's still a lot of money you got to invest, and whichever the number is, whether it's 10 million or 100, Eli, there's a way whether he can go to the bank and just straight get it, or stocks, or some type of investment he's already made and cash in, or just utilize credit that he's established. Because with there's ways he could have got that money to purchase his part of the team if he wanted to.
And his net worth is reportedly 180 million. So you can afford it, but how much would he get in return?
And you know he hasn't blown 80 million. And if you even do have 80 million you've spent, you've got a good amount of investments that's in. You could take back from it that's probably grown equity in dividends. That there's ways you can pay for that when you have that. Because you know the Manning family has invested very well. They had good leadership from their parents. So, and you know he could have got it. But yes, I'm 100% with you on the fact that it's got to be the culture. It's got to be the way that things are shaping up for this team in the current moment in 2025, as to where maybe he's thinking 5 years down the road, even though it could be more expensive, and it will be more expensive. He'll have made more money. The team could be in a better place, and he might be more interested in buying ownership at that point if it's available. If not, you don't have to own the team you played for. There's plenty of cases where people have bought teams they never even played for or suited up for, at all. So
plus his kids are playing hockey, and his kid, I think one of his daughters plays hockey, and hockey's expensive to play.
Yes, hockey. And
hey, you could see a Manning in the PWHL and playing for USA Hockey someday. So that'd be pretty cool.
Good. Very, very good. That would be pretty cool. But that's a very physical sport. That's very different. And then, you're flying like 50 miles an hour into the next person.
Well, they are confirmed New Jersey Devils fans, so that's cool.
That is awesome. So you got some ties to each other there. You might see each other at a game at some point. So
yeah, I'm in the cheap seats. He's down the glass. That's that costs money. He's got the scratch for it though.
hey, you can still walk up and down the aisles. You just can't sit in the seat.
It's true. It's true.
You walk down, you can touch the glass, go back on up, and if you happen to turn around as you're going back up, and you're able to give a head nod or have a good day, sir, or whatever the case may be.
Yep.
You can finagle it in there. There's always ways around it. You're just going for a walk.
Yes. That's my defense, Your Honor. I was just going for a walk.
That's it. Let's walk in on the next subject. The Buccaneers tackle Tristan Wirfs will miss the start of the NFL season after undergoing knee surgery. How much will his absence affect this team, and do you believe he will fully recover to be effective for this season?
It's going to affect him a lot. He's a two-time All-Pro, and he is highly touted as one of the best offensive linemen in the National Football League ever since he made an appearance for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was part of that 2020 team that won the Super Bowl. He's been the backbone of that offensive line since, and this is a big loss for them. And it's the NFC South. We talked about this on No Credentials Required. Ding! A couple weeks back on our Friday happy hour. Dustin and I did our respective top 10 storylines going into 2025. And one of my storylines was that the NFC South is going to be, I think, outside of the New Orleans Saints, is going to be pretty competitive this year. Because we've talked about how much of a dumpster fire full of tire fires it is, the train wreck it's been for the last half decade, with Tampa Bay owning that division for a while. But I see the Panthers on the rise. I see the Falcons on the rise if they can get things together. And both teams drafted very well in this year's draft. So this is going to be a big loss for them, and especially for the first couple weeks of the year. I know for a fact that they're playing my New York Jets at the beginning in the first couple weeks of this season. Does it say how long he's going to be out for, or just for the first part? It just doesn't say how many.
It feels like pretty much at most the first month. Like okay, that's what it seems like. But then again, you don't want to rush it at the same time. No, you don't. If it's your knees, yeah, absolutely. You don't want to rush it, especially if you're an offensive lineman. Like that's the most important part of your body is your knees, because they're the ones that keep you upright and make sure that the quarterback's protected, make sure the run game's going well. So if he's out for the first month of the year, then yeah, unlike other leagues where it's a marathon and not a sprint, the NFL is an all-out sprint for all 16, 17 weeks. So their first 4 games are in Atlanta, in Houston, at home against the Jets, at home against the Eagles. That is a tough 4 weeks. Atlanta is much improved, as I said. Houston's no slouch. The Jets, I think, are going to surprise a lot of people this year. People will laugh at me for saying that, but look at the second part of their schedule after week 9. It's pretty easy. And then you got the defending champions in Philadelphia. So that is not an easy first 4 weeks of the year. And if you start behind the 8 ball, if you start 1-3, 0-4, and your offense can't get it going, you got a lot of catching up to do. And it's going to be, I think, Tristan Wirfs, his absence is going to be very important. It's going to affect this team a lot, especially on the offensive side of the ball, because if Baker's not protected, his game changes a lot. It does. And he definitely needs that protection, because yes, he can scramble, but you don't want him scrambling every single play, running for his life, especially when that has to deal with blocking for his blind side. So it's absolute. It's kind of like what Trent Williams means to the San Francisco 49ers, maybe not to that level, but pretty close, because, Williams is a Hall of Famer and, near future Hall of Famer. But for this, I'm with you on this. I agree that this is going to affect this team throughout the first few weeks of the season, and potentially more, because you never know how things go, especially when it comes to the recovery. We wish him well, and we hope for the best for them and that team, because you absolutely want to see teams competing at their best. You don't want to see a team down the dumps at all, based on injuries. You'd rather them be fighting with their full strength. And if you take the L at full strength, it's good. I'd rather see that than it be affected by injury. So with that said, we'll go ahead and take it on into the final topic here for the Gridiron Scoop. We finally found a way to discuss again on this program, as Rams wide receiver Davante Adams said that LeBron James would have been one of the best wide receivers in NFL history. As blasphemous as this take appears to be 2 decades later, especially when it comes to how much validity can we hold to this statement by a current NFL talent?
It's funny that Snowman shows up in the chat because I feel a LeBron sexual confession coming on. And I made a joke in the green room that I'm not going to repeat here because if I say it, it's going to manifest, and I don't want that. But please, come on. If he had to play, if he wanted to play football, he should have played football. But the problem is, it's like the basketball, because at the time, you didn't have to go to college. He would have to spend at least 2 seasons in the NCAA before declaring himself eligible for the draft. And that would have affected his greatness, quote unquote. I'm putting air quotes for the audio listeners. That would have affected his greatness. And why? Like, is Davante just saying this because he's in LA now? And so is LeBron? So is Yo Kang? I mean, can we just stop the what ifs, please? What ifs just cause anxiety, and they cause me to have an agina. I hate the what ifs. I hate the what ifs of what if this athlete played this sport? Would he be as great as he was in this sport? He plays the sport he plays. He made his choice. Let's just leave it. I'm gonna get an aneurysm.
I feel like this is definitely a major blasphemous take.
What?
As much as Stone Cold believes this is absolutely crazy, and Charles, a fellow NBA legend, would say this.
That's terrible.
Because there's no way that LeBron James, you can predict that he would have been an all-time great wide receiver in the NFL. Because one, there's not enough football tape for him in high school against competitive defenses that could really show what he can do against supreme talent. Like, what major talent did LeBron face up against when he was a wide receiver that made it to the NFL? And that's a question for the chat, and I'll put that in a short that we'll have that I'm going to make out of this. But that's the question. Like, what was the competition on the other side of the ball for LeBron as a wide receiver in the NFL in high school? Because, I mean, how do you have the backing to say that he could be one of the all-time greats? And especially to the point that for longevity, he's one of the greatest to play in the NBA. I will give him that. Still not the greatest of all time. I'm not even going to put him up there and even have that argument, because then I will have an aneurysm, as much as I have debated that against other people from the, just don't, the
bronze sexuals are going to come out like the zombies in World War Z. They're just going to be climbing all over each other to get at you at the comments.
I can't do it, not today. But what I can say about is I disagree that he would have been an all-time great wide receiving talent, because he's still not, in my opinion, an all-time great NBA talent.
No, so. and I have to add one more thing. I saw something on social media a couple days ago. From Polymarket, and they were saying that there's concerns about Mason Graham from the Browns is trending towards bust territory because of his small size, short arms, and being severely out of shape at OTAs. The guy hasn't even taken a damn snap in the NFL, and we're already calling him a bust. I hate this part of football culture and this part of social media. It's like, oh, he's a bust already because he's undersized and he's out of shape. And it's like, that's why we have OTAs, and that's why we have training camp. It gets you into shape. He's a rookie. So stop classifying him as a bust when he hasn't taken a damn snap in the NFL yet. I hate it.
I am 100% with you on that because Ryan is basically saying,
you guys want to hear a fucking story?
and that's to lighten up on the rookies. Give them a break and take back your comments.
Delete!
Because they haven't been given a fair chance yet.
Yeah.
Let's give them that fair chance. And
plus, Mason Graham's a stud.
You know, from you venting about that to me venting about Davante Adams and that take, from all of those to the next one, it's time to take it to our favorite subject where we can yell about them. Because as much as I wanted to nominate Davante Adams this week, I couldn't do it. I wanted to. I couldn't. I wanted to. I thought about it. But when it comes to our takes for Snowflake of the Week, Ryan, it's time for you to now vent about yours.
All right. My Snowflake of the Week actually goes to a winning head coach, which is shocking. I know.
Yes.
But my Snowflake of the Week is head coach of the Edmonton Elks, Mark Killam. And I'll tell you why. First year head coach, I'll give him that. But he made some questionable decisions during their game against the Ottawa Redblacks. A couple of them being putting in Cody Fajardo at some interesting times. They're up 17-7 in the second quarter, and instead of keeping the foot on the gas pedal with Trey Ford, he puts in Cody Fajardo for a series of plays. And I got nothing against Cody Fajardo. The dude's a winner. He won a Grey Cup with Montreal in 2023. I'll always be appreciative as an Alouettes fan. Gonna put that out there. As an Alouettes fan, I always appreciate him for that. But when you have as a rookie head coach, you have to understand when you have to keep your foot on the throat of your opponent. And he did this twice in this game. Actually, three times in this game, where he put in keeping Trey Ford off the field, who is clearly having a great game, only had 2 incompletions the entire game, and he put in your backup quarterback. Now, ordinarily, if I see an injury on the field, then I totally understand. But this was part of the game plan. I'm just utterly confused. And I'm going, why would you do this? Why would you try to catch the Redblacks off guard when you know what's coming? When you've got an older, a little bit slower quarterback instead of your outstanding dynamic third-year guy, Trey Ford. There was also the 2 instances where he got the ball back against Ottawa, they were beneficiary of a penalty, had not only second and short but third and short, and he decided to run it both times, and Ottawa catches a red-handed both times, and you force a turnover in your own territory. So instead of trying to do a fake, maybe do a play action, or maybe try a sweep or a running, or hand the ball to the running back, you try to run it up the middle with your backup quarterback in your short yard situations. So I'll give him a little bit of grace in saying, okay, this is his first year. He's learning as a head coach, but he has to learn that, and Mark Killam has to learn, you have to keep your foot on the throat of your opponent. Otherwise, your opponent will catch up to you, and they'll swipe your leg, and they'll try to take over you. And it's almost happened to the Elks in this game. Even though they were fully in control in the first half, Ottawa almost caught up to them. So Mark Killam, my no Snowflake of the Week. You're still learning. I get you, but there's a couple things you have to learn in this league because it's gonna bite you. It's gonna come back and bite you in the butt eventually, and it almost happened in this game.
Yes, you are absolutely correct with that, and you had a great choice for Snowflake of the Week because even though he found a way to win, even though they held on to win the game, he narrowly could have cost them this win at the same time, and they needed it because of the drought that they've been on, which is the reason why they brought him in to begin with. So 100% agree with you on that. Great pick for Snowflake of the Week. Mine, as much as I want to blame him for this loss that his team took, I'm going with Jose Maltos, who missed a field goal that cost his team the game. It absolutely did cost his team the game right here. When you look at it, he put up 8 points, but he was 2 of 3 on field goals, and his team lost to the BC Lions by 1 point. Had he converted on that field goal, they would have won by 2 points, and we would not be talking about Jose as our Snowflake of the Week. And for that, as he rounds out our completion of picks for the Snowflake of the Week between Ryan's great pick with the head coach of the Edmonton Elks, and this pick, Jose Maltos of the Montreal Alouettes, we conclude our selections for the Snowflake of the Week, and we take it on into our final commercial break of the episode. And when we come back, we have the 2-minute drill and the post game to round out episode 92 of Total Football Talk. We'll see you here after this last commercial break.
Later, the post game. But coming up next, the 2-minute drill. This is Total Football Talk.
You know it, and I know it. Let's get ready for it. When that will happen, we don't know.
I'm telling you. I mean, look at the bottom of the graphic. Look at this man. Look at him. He's gonna be like a Dollar Tree Charlie Chaplin or something. Like, I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, look. Hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie Bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. Hey, $ D Willie 87. Go ahead, hit him up on the Cash App, and go ahead and give him some Willie Bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen. Stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie Bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. How about some Willie Bucks?
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
In a world where chronicles of the past are brought to the streams, whether the content is relatable or completely beyond your realm of life, there is no shadow of a doubt that this show is absolutely full of shenanigans. Get ready for
D. Willie in the evening.
This Sunday at 10:05 p.m. Eastern.
Exclusively on Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
That's right. It's time for the 2-minute drill as we are back for episode 92 of Total Football Talk. Myself and Ryan McCarthy here to round out episode 92 and discuss what we have upcoming for this week 6 in CFL action starting tonight here in a little bit. As we've got 3 teams that are on bye. That's the Alouettes, the Bombers, and the Argonauts this week. But we have to take a look at the teams that we have planned. That's the Calgary Stampeders and the Saskatchewan Roughriders tonight at 9:00 p.m. Eastern Time. Ryan, who do you think is going to take this game at hand?
It's going to depend on who establishes the run. And in their last game before their bye week, Saskatchewan, I talked about their run defense. They got run over by BC, which was very surprising. Even though they blew them out of the water, they had a tough time containing the Lions' defense, the Lions' offense, particularly on the running side of the ball. James Butler had over 100 yards rushing, even though they came out with the win. They had 3 interceptions of Jeremiah Masoli. But it's going to be up to them to stop the run, especially when you have Dedrick Mills. Dedrick Mills is one of the leading rushers in the CFL right now. He averages just over 100 yards a game for the Calgary Stampeders. So you got to stop him, stop the run. Trevor Harris, he's coming back after his concussion. He's cleared from his concussion protocol. He'll be back in the lineup for the Roughriders. So he's going to have himself. He's got to get comfortable in the pocket, and you got to get him going early, whether it be short passes or taking some chances on second down long. You got to get him the chance to get warmed up in the pocket, get comfortable being back there, and that's going to be a difference for the Roughriders. For the Stampeders, just like I said, for the opposite side of the ball, you got to make Trevor Harris's life a little bit difficult, especially coming back from a couple weeks off, and you got to give Dedrick Mills the ball. He's your rock. He's your guy. He's going to be helping out Vernon Adams Jr. Be kind of the foil. I don't say the foil, but just helping him out and making Vernon Adams' life better behind the pocket and giving him the support that he needs, because we've seen it before. If Vernon Adams Jr. doesn't get a whole lot of support from his running game, it's going to be all up to him, and sometimes it's high risk, high reward. So that's going to be the difference for both teams in this game.
You're absolutely right with that, and I believe that between these two teams, with the Stampeders being 3-1 and the Roughriders being 4-0 at this current point, this could be potentially one of our picks next week for Game of the Week, or the main one, because I mean, these are two really good teams in the league, and the Roughriders need this win coming off of the bye week, as they went into it hot 4-0, and a lot of teams will come back with that type of momentum and undefeated momentum going into a bye week and not be able to necessarily sustain it as they've had that week to cool off. So hopefully the Roughriders can prove those skeptics wrong, and the Stampeders will take the big old fat old stink. And yes, that is me as the homer for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, making that prediction as, I want to see them continue to cruise. This is a team that, last year I adopted as my CFL team, and with them being at home tonight on a Friday, I'll be out in the garage with the TV on, and we'll be watching this Roughriders game when it comes on at 9 o'clock. My pick, the Roughriders, but yes, like you said, they're going to have to establish the run early on in order to mix things up and get things going through these 3 downs that you get to convert to a first here in the CFL.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
And now to our Saturday game. Two teams that, again, have struggled in this year, as we have to look at the Redblacks, who are 1-4, the Tiger Cats, they struggled to start out, but ever since having that bye, they've been picking things up. The 2-2, the Tiger Cats are, and they're at home Saturday at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time against the, again, 1-4 Ottawa Redblacks. Brian, who do you think takes this game and why?
Boy, if you love seeing guys sling the rock, you're going to love this game. You gotta be you love the quarterback play. You absolutely have to. This is an absolute must watch. And you got two guys, like we mentioned in the segment a couple seconds before. Levi Mitchell, he surpassed 40,000 yards passing yards in his CFL career a couple weeks ago against Montreal. Drew Brown, he comes back after a bit of an absence because of a hip injury. He's throwing for 300 yards every game, no matter what. It's going to be predicated on what they can do on the ground, what each team can do on the ground. Hamilton had 100 yards on the ground last week. Ottawa, you've got William Stanback, who is a veteran running back, but you don't use him enough. There's a reason why they brought him in. And William Stanback, he's a Grey Cup winner. Won the Grey Cup in 2023 with Montreal. He's an established running back in this league. If you're going to win, you got to utilize him. And this is going to come down to which defense gets the big turnover to turn the things around. We saw it last week in Hamilton and Toronto when Amos got that interception When Toronto was starting to fly, you thought they were going to try to run away with it. Amos takes the ball away, and it goes the other way, and such a huge momentum swing. Just one turnover can do, and it turned to 17 unanswered points for the Tiger Cats. So whichever defense does their job in getting a turnover, especially early, is going to make the bigger difference in this game. I think it's going to be Hamilton that does that, because this is their. Well, I wouldn't say Toronto's a home game, because it's only a few miles away from BMO. They're only a few miles away from BMO Field. I digress. They don't have to travel that far, but they stay home at Tim Hortons Field. It's the friendly confines. They got a big win a couple weeks ago against Montreal, but I think Hamilton, they're starting to ride that wave, and it's going to continue against Ottawa. And Ottawa, I figured would be a Grey Cup contender at the end of the season. The wheels are starting to fall off the wagon a little bit, and I'm getting a little concerned in Ottawa. So I'm going to take the Tiger Cats in this game.
I agree with you too. I mean, they've been building up momentum over the past couple of weeks, and especially with the production from Bo Levi Mitchell each and every week. They're facing my Roughriders. I would be saying something different right now, but they are not, luckily for them. And for that, especially against the team that they are playing against this week that is struggling, and they have been struggling on the road as well, I'm going to have to give it to the Tiger Cats, who have been finding ways to win on the road, and this time they're at home. More comfort for them as they are in their home area getting it done. I'm going with the Tiger Cats getting this win against another team that's struggling, but not on the come up like the Hamilton Tiger Kitty.
Who's giving them the business?
And for our last game of the weekend, two teams that, again, have been struggling. You have to look at the BC Lions, who, yes, they did get a win this past week to get to their second win of the year. But we have the Edmonton Elks, who just finally got their first win of the year, and you just went off on their head coach during the Snowflake of the Week segment. Do you think that those words can impact the Edmonton Elks to potentially win their second straight game, but in a little bit better fashion? Or will the BC Lions continue their streak as well and get to their second straight win?
So it's a battle between two rookie head coaches. Killam for the Elks, Buck Pierce for the BC Lions. It's going to be dependent on, I think it's going to be which team gets to the quarterback more. And I think BC has a better pass rush. Yes, Trey Ford is mobile. We've seen his mobility in past weeks. So is Nathan Rourke. But I think BC has a better pass rush. I think BC is a better running team, even though Justin Rankin had the week that he had last week. I just think that BC is better offensively than what the Elks can handle. And it's another home game for Edmonton. They love the fact that they won last week at home and in July for the first time since 2022. Yikes. That's how far the Edmonton Elks have fallen. But as much as I want to see Edmonton, and we actually might be the first time we disagree on this here, Drew, but we'll see. I'll find out from you in a second. As much as I want Edmonton to keep the momentum up, to get fans back in the building, get fans interested in the team more, I just think even with all the miles they've put on themselves the last couple of weeks, I think the BC Lions will win a close game. Can't hear you, man.
Yes. My apologies. I accidentally forgot I had to take a sip of a drink and wanted to make sure I was muted so I wasn't going over top of you. So, but my bad with that. I think that if the Lions can contain themselves and not commit the penalties they did like in the previous games, not just last week. Last week was one of their worst showings, and they still found a way to win. I don't think you're going to be able to have that amount of penalties for that amount of yards against a team that's hungry like the Elks right now. They're tired of losing. They're tired of getting smacked around, it looks like, when you're watching this game. Between them and other teams, they've got Rankin, who is definitely one of their highlights of their offense. If Trey Ford can go a game with only 2 incompletions and no turnovers like he did and protect the ball like he did last week, I really like the Elks' chances if the Lions continue to struggle with protecting themselves by not committing the amount of penalties that they are. If they continue to have those type of penalties, if James Butler underperforms, and even though he had, of 60 combined yards between running and receiving last week, those type of numbers from James Butler, in my opinion, are underperforming. The Lions deserve to lose to the Alouettes last week, in my opinion. And if they play like that for a second consecutive week, they will lose. And with it being in Edmonton still, they get a second straight week. I think just for the sake of debate, I'm going to disagree and go with the Elks. I just want to. We can't agree on everything, but I just think that the Lions have been playing pretty sloppy with the amount of penalties that they have been converting, and I think it's going to come back to bite them eventually in this game.
Yeah, that's fair, and that's totally fair. I like I said, I want Edmonton. I mean, I'm not trying to play homerism here. I'm not trying to root against anybody in particular, but I want Edmonton to succeed because they've been on such a downswing for so long that you want to see this team, who has been one of the best, probably one of the best franchises over the last 50 years in the CFL. You want to see them succeed and through all the mess that they've been through the last couple of years, the last decade since their last Grey Cup win. I'm rooting for them, but I won't be shocked if BC wins, but I also won't be shocked if Edmonton wins. It's going to come down to which team is going to be more disciplined, like you said, Drew, and maybe we'll see something. We'll see both divisions be competitive, and for the first time in I can't tell you how long, with the exception of Ottawa. Ottawa's struggling right now, but to see both divisions be highly competitive is going to be so much fun and just a big W for the league.
And I hope so, especially with what we've talked about in the past weeks with the commissioner and the attendance and the different things that correlate with all that. They definitely need to have a big turnout, going forward, and hopefully, competitive play between the two teams can help that be a thing. And the Elks definitely still have a ways to go in order to completely turn things around. They are not as far improved, in my opinion, as like the Tiger Kitties are. So with that being said, that concludes a 2-minute drill. We still have one more segment to go to, and that is the post game. See you guys here on the other side of this transition.
Total Football Talk.
As long as it's one. That's great. I love it.
Just an hour and 33 minutes in. We're doing great with time today, getting here to the post-game segment. When it comes to this part of the show, we discuss our closing thoughts in that particular episode, maybe touch up on what we discussed earlier or something else within the game of professional football. Ryan, when it comes to this segment, what are your thoughts as we close up the show?
So, confession to make, in the green room, I said I wasn't really sure what I was going to cover during our final thoughts, but I figured it out because I was going to talk about the Washington Commanders and their curiously interesting third uniforms for this year, but I think Drew might cover that. So I'm gonna back.
I'll let you have it. I mean, I can't homerism for everything. I gave my homerisms for the Roughriders. It's your turn.
I got something else. Okay. So I was looking at this article from Jets X Factor. Michael Nania had written today. It was published a couple days, about 9 days ago. He talks about fan apathy among the New York Jets fan base. And yes, I'm going to play a little bit of homerism right now because I'm a New York Jets fan. Drew played that commercial for No Credentials Required. I've been a Jets fan since I was 4 years old with Kermit the Frog because he was my favorite Muppet. He wore green. He was green. The Jets wore green, therefore they were my team. But that wasn't the only reason I fell in love with this team. That's why I was a fan of this team. I'll dive deeper in that story another time. But Michael Nania from Jets X Factor writes an article about what he's feeling about the New York Jets fan base. And he seems to think, and maybe he's right about this, that this offseason, Jets fans are starting to show a little bit of apathy towards their team. And there's many reasons why. And I'm sure Drew, as a fan of the REDSKINS, now then football team, now Commanders, I'm sure you felt that too. But it wasn't so much based on the performance in the field, but it was who was at the helm of ownership. But for me, it's not just it's not just the ownership of the team. It's also the performance of the team on the field. It's the fact that they have not seen or sniffed a play, except for one season or 2 seasons actually, have not seen or sniffed, even come close to sniffing a playoff berth since 2010, since those magical first couple of years with Rex Ryan at the helm and Mark Sanchez hand off the ball to his running backs between Sean Green and Thomas Jones, and that defense that Rex built that was flying all over the place, second quarterbacks getting key turnovers at the right time. There hasn't been much enthusiasm this year compared to past seasons, especially the last couple seasons when you had a certain quarterback who is now with the Pittsburgh Steelers in Aaron Rodgers.
Ayahuasca.
But he's seeing what's on social media between fans, in that there's not as much, I wouldn't say enthusiasm, but there's not as much fervor. And I think that has to do with who is the head coach of this team, Aaron Glenn. He's not making bold predictions. He's not giving reporters what they want in terms of the soundbite that they want. He is making decisions that are affecting the future of this team for this season and hopefully for the next 5 seasons. And we hope that Aaron Glenn does the right thing behind the coaching and does the right thing, and Darren Muji does the right thing in the GM spot, in the GM role. And it just seems and Michael Nania is seeing it. Maybe I'm starting to see it for the first time too, but it's not so much apathy, but it's a calmed enthusiasm, as like it never has really been in the past. You don't have the boisterous head coach like a Rex Ryan or Robert Saleh trying to dig up enthusiasm, saying I'm keeping receipts of what you people say, what your reporters say in the press. It's not Todd Bowles, and God bless him, he's a great defensive mind, but his personality is like wallpaper. Aaron Glenn is built different than the last 3 head coaches, and God forbid we bring up Adam Gase. God Almighty, just the 2 forgettable years we had at the helm with him. He's not trying to give you a soundbite. He's just doing his job, and he's putting his pen to paper. He's doing the work. He's evaluating players and making sure what players need to do, and the players are buying in. The players are buying in, and you want to see guys who got drafted stay here. Sauce Gardner has said on the record he wants to stay here. Garrett Wilson has said he wants to stay here, and they're up for big extensions either this year or next year. So I wouldn't say that the Jets fans are feeling apathetic during this offseason, but they're very quiet because of who's the coach of the team, who's not making that much noise. And that's a good thing. That's a very good thing, because he's focused on his work. He's not focused on getting on the back of the paper. He's not focused on getting clicks on the internet. He's focused on his job and making sure that this team is prepared every single day, whether in OTAs or what's coming up in camp, or what's coming up in preseason and in the season onward. He's preparing this team hopefully for good things, hopefully great, and for this season, and hopefully great things in the future. So I don't think it's apathy that we're feeling. I think it's a quiet hopefulness that we're seeing hope in what Aaron Glenn can do.
And it's definitely going to be exciting for you guys to have that new energy in the locker room throughout this season, in comparison to the way things kind of seemed pretty deflated in comparison to how things are going. And you kind of set it up for me to spike it over the net. This next one, I was going to let you have it, but I will take what you said and do something a little bit different with the post game. Is I'm gonna share a clip from what was shared the other day here in a moment. But let's start this out with discussing the news that came out this week. Multiple teams are going to be debuting different uniforms this year. The Commanders right here shared this picture, basically showing the past of what they're expecting to have here. And I'll have Ryan back up here for my final take for this, because it's pretty interesting. You started it here, and we see all of the old, because if they're going to show it, I'm going to say it. They're showing the Redskins paraphernalia from the past. Mm-hmm. Donald Trump, just recently, the president of the United States, love him or hate him, like him or dislike him for what he does, but for him as the leader of the United States, saying that he would not mind if they went back to the name Redskins. The way that it was changed was all in petty fashion to begin with, and you got the owner out of there. It seems like people care less now that Snyder is out of there as the owner for the way he was leading. And you look around this picture, you have the 1987 NFL champions Wheaties box right there. My brother had that and passed it down to me when I was a kid. I've got it somewhere out there in the garage in boxes of stuff from when I moved. It's out there. I still have that Wheaties box. You look at the banners in the background, the Super Bowl trophies, the amount of things in the background, even the old helmet on that shelf back there with the logo. This to me seems like the beginning of a smooth retransition back into what this team should have remained this whole time, because the name was historically said, regardless of what Prescott did when he first started this franchise, after him, the name was kept to honor, Native Americans in the tribe. And especially when that logo was created in the 70s, it was made to honor a chief. So without going too far into it, because I've spent several episodes in the past, not just on here, but on Commander's Gridiron Report defending it, they didn't just put one of the logo in this picture, okay? This logo is all over it. Now, is it what the players are wearing? No, they're wearing literally everything of the old uniform except the logo. But when you go and you watch a video that I'm going to show you here in a second, we're going to share. Let's see. Let's share this extra. Share the screen from. No, I don't want to do it this way. Let's do it. Here we go. Right here. And let's play this.
There's something special in these stitches, because sewn into this fabric is all that was once good in Washington.
And I want you to know that each one of you has a small piece of this trophy today.
It's the grit and the glory. It's a city brought together with a spirit that made steel shake and opponents quake. It's 3 Lombardis, earned, not given. This isn't just a uniform. It's a reminder of who we've always been. Because history doesn't fade. It fuels the future. It's the same fight, same pride, same city behind it. We wear the past like armor, but we fight for what's next.
And there you have the old helmet. That's basically, except for the logo, you've got the old helmet because you have the color scheme now on that helmet. So, it's tough to see that we have the old colors, but not the logo in the name. Okay, at least they're honoring the past and they're not shying from it, which that is cool. But when I look at this right here, and you see the amount of the old logo in this picture, I just can't help but to think this is like a silent retransition back to the old team, back to the old name. At some point, you got a new stadium that you're going to have built in 5 years. Well, the goal is to have it built within the next 5 years. The old RFK site, you know, they've been wheeling and dealing with that for quite some time. We finally got the news that is a thing earlier this year, you know, a few months back. But my thoughts with this are, I like it. It's bittersweet. You should, if you're really going to truly honor the past, though, even if it's for one game, and one of those 3 games that we have 3 games where we're going to see throwback uniforms: week 9 against the Seahawks, week 13 against the Broncos, and week 17 against the Cowboys. These uniforms definitely have to be part of that week 17 game.
Oh, for sure.
But I feel like that logo on the side of the helmet needs to be the old Redskins logo. And we have that true Cowboys and Redskins rivalry. And because it's not the same where many people say. I mean, I still get amped up for it like it is, but I'm somewhat living in the past, still thinking of them as their former identity when I'm watching these games, even though I have a newer Commanders jersey and a hat and so on and so forth. They are still in my heart the Washington Redskins. And seeing this gives me a great feeling for the future that whether they want to honor them in some great way throughout the new stadium, you have to, based on what they had there before they moved in 1996. But for this right here, it's missing the logo on the helmet. I like that they brought the color scheme back on the helmet because they didn't have the gold stripe with the white around it. They didn't have that around the burgundy last year and in the years leading up to this. At least they're bringing that part back. It makes you feel like you're watching the old school team here, but at the same time, without that old logo, you don't even have to have the name Redskins on it. You can I've argued this before. You can put the old logo on it and still call the team something else.
Yep.
It's if they truly want to honor the tribe, okay? That in itself, that's why I even said before, you can call the Washington Chippewas for all I care. You need to bring back the logo and still honor that part of history if you truly want to honor the history, like I played in that video that we just shared for this. That's my thoughts for the post game, and I hope that I lived up to that as good as you meant to serve it up and me spike it over. That's how I feel about this take. What do you think about it?
I agree. No, it's you're a couple steps close. You're a couple steps away from restoring the old team that what it was. And yeah, the old ownership, Mr. Daniel Snyder, being vanilla as he was. Nothing.
I'm behaving.
He hated vanilla ice cream. That's why I was going for the joke. But
I was thinking of something else. My apologies.
No,
I'm behaving.
I kept it PG. But the way he tarnished that team for so long, and like you said, the way that he changed the team in the petty, absolute petty way that he did it, just saying, well, if I can't have the Redskins logo and I can't have the name, I'm just going to call it the football team. That's just such a petty move because he can do it because he has that kind of scratch. But with Josh Harris and that ownership group doing what seems to be really good things right now, I think you're starting to say, as the kids would say, nature is healing itself.
Yes.
So you're a couple of steps away from bringing back the old team, and I think the stance because of new ownership towards that name and towards that logo has softened, because it's not the old ownership shoving in your face that he's not going to do anything to change the team and it just changes the logo because and the team name because, well, I'm just going to be a petty jerk about it because I have all this money. No, I think the Harris group, they've done such a good thing in restoring the goodwill of that team to the community at large, that this is just part of the step to really continue the healing of the ownership group and the team and the franchise as a whole towards that Washington, the DMV area, to that community. And this is just another step forward. And maybe in a couple of years, you'll see more steps taken to bring back that old logo on the helmet and maybe restore the name or make it something else that's going to be an honor and a tribute to the Native American community. Because I don't think they wanted to change that all, to be honest with you.
Nope. And and I think you'll have to do this for that if that's the case.
Acknowledge me.
Acknowledge those who out there didn't deserve to get dragged through the mud in this deal. Because even if you wanted to make it something cool, if you wanted to change it to something cool in between the names, you could have called it Washington Team of Football for hashtag WTF happened here. Because that's how I felt in the moment. And then instead of just throwing in Commanders, you could have picked an actual tribe name to honor if that's the direction you truly wanted to go to appease everyone. And then you could have still kept the logo, but you spent more in licensing and trademarks for the logo to change when you could have, all you had to do is spend half, and that would have been just for the name. So there's a lot of misreads and misplays within the situation, which, I think Snyder kind of did on purpose to kind of make things more difficult for the next owner, because people last year were starting to grow on the name and accept it more. But as you really dive into it, once they start having a few years of not going to the NFC Championship and having some setbacks, this team's going to start hating the name. The fans are going to start hating the name again. And I will go along with it for the sake, but at the same time, for the sake of debate, I will sit here and say I absolutely want to see it changed either back or to something that honors an actual Native American tribe to make things kosher all the way throughout.
Yeah. I mean, you could argue in the CFL the same thing with the Edmonton Elks and the Edmonton Eskimos. The Elks are just basically playing in the Eskimo skin with the color scheme and the EE on the helmets they have. Maybe someday we'll see the Eskimos name restored too. We don't know. Things are changing.
They are. But one country to another, we'll have to see how things continue to evolve for both situations, or at least in sports. There's still several things outside of sports that involve certain changes to get everybody back on track. And I'm not really trying to take it into a political atmosphere, but that is just the truth when it comes to that. But for this show right here, for episode 92, it's been an honor, joy, and privilege, as always, to be here with Mr. McCarthy and discuss the game of professional football. We do have to get on out of here as we have time restraints and less things to talk about because the NFL is not in full swing yet. But for that, here for episode 92, we only have one more thing that we have to look at, and that is one okay outro, semi-greatness, semi-awesomeness thing out here. Not the best, but something to get us on out of here. But Ryan, thank you as always for being here. Look forward to doing it again. Hopefully sometime in the near future. We'll talk more about that outside of here. But with that being said, let's go on and get to that outro. Everybody, as always, please stay safe out here in these streets.